Living the party life. Yeah. Oh, crap. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, guys, just move on. Okay. Yeah, Bearman. No, we can't use you today. No, Bearman. Go. Said go, Bearman. Okay. All right. Yeah, Disco Girls. No, we can't have you. I forgot. I had a live conference scheduled, and I forgot all about it. I guess it's probably going to be late. Just okay. There you go. You got your 5 minutes of fame, Bearman. You got your 5 minutes of fame. Are you happy? Are you happy, Bearman? You should be happy. You should. All right. I know I love you. I do love you. I'm sorry. Okay, you can go. All right. Well, I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna start the live stream. Okay, everybody okay, cool with that? Okay. All right. Hey, keep partying. Okay. We'll party once we get back. Actually. Oh. Hi everyone. Sorry I was late. I don't know what happened. I really don't. I had it set for live, and I'm not that late, to be honest. I'm like 5 minutes. Hopefully people will come. We're at 0 right now, so that's not good. But it'll probably grow. Hopefully, 4 o'clock to 5. I was thinking how best to do this. If in I don't know, 10 minutes nobody comes, I'm going to start reading Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone this time. But yeah, I can't even blame anyone if they're not here, because I've missed quite a few days, honestly. I promised that I was going to do it, and then this whole live thing, I cut myself shaving. But then this whole thing happened, and just COVID was horrible. Worst sickness I've ever been through. Pretty much ruined my entire plans here. And I have to admit, it is hard doing both YouTube and TikTok, which is why this episode might end up being kind of important, because I'm thinking of maybe just quitting the YouTube because it's just too hard to put together. And I can't do both TikTok and YouTube at the same time easily, which I know is sad, but it's just it's hard to get people to view on YouTube, and just nobody cares on YouTube. And it's just, I've gotten to the point now where I'm thinking of just canceling the whole thing. So I don't know if that's how it's going to go down, but it's starting to look that way. I hate to do that, but I mean, I've already I basically just said no to my Halloween special. If we do it, it's going to be a lot shorter and a lot less complicated, but I'll try to make some videos, and I wanted to get to 800. So let's at least get to 800. And you know what? There's going to be people watching this later. I also wanted to say there was problems with the finished product of my live extravaganza. I don't know if the actual live extravaganza itself went wrong. I don't know. It looked like there were some things going on there, like weird sounds, weird cuts. I don't know what was happening. I have absolutely no idea. I tried it before. I practiced it in my room, and I made sure that it would work. And it seemed like it was working when I used it in my room. But for some reason, when I went in Corey's room and filmed for an hour, it didn't work. I tried it for an hour, and nothing like that happened. So I don't know. The video processed, and it was disturbed. I don't know if it was for people viewing too, it was like that. I hope not, but it was a mess. It's been a mess. It's been a huge mess, and we're just gonna try to have fun today. I'm gonna help you all out with any problems you might have, give you some advice, some wisdom, and hopefully we can get some people in. I'm going to do a favor for you all, a solid, and stay for a whole hour since I was just a little bit late with the live stream. Again, this technology, it's crazy. It's very new to me, for one. And for another, it's just, I shouldn't feel so embarrassed. It is new technology and all, and it should be expected that there's going to be some problems, but I feel guilty when it does happen. I feel bad. I don't like anything to go wrong, but they do. Things do go wrong. It's just the way that it goes. I don't know. I can't. I'm just not one of those people that deal with that very easily. I like this channel to be the best it can possibly be, and hopefully all of you will be able to watch this and it'll be fully processed. There won't be any problems. So if you're watching this later, which it looks like you will be because there's nobody watching it right now, but if somebody's viewing it in the future when it's all up, I'm hoping that everything will be fine, that it will have the title on it and all the stuff that I put there, the thumbnail. I'm hoping that's the case. I do not know. It was very. This is also a new computer I'm using because the last time I used my old computer, and I'm like, well, maybe with the new computer, it'll actually work better. And to be honest, it was not very good how it worked. I'm surprised too. Again, I did a practice run of this. I did a practice run last night where I scheduled it and all, and it's just the times that I go live, things go wrong, it seems like. So might have to do 2 practice runs. I don't know. But anyways, I wanted to do some self-help for you all. But I can't really do that if nobody's here. So we'll look through this box first, and then later we'll do some self-help. And maybe we'll do this Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone because nobody's really coming. But, oh man, I hope somebody comes eventually. It was short notice. I do admit that. And I'm sorry for that. I said it was going to be Tuesday at 4 o'clock, but I'd already postponed it because of COVID. Oh man, it's just like I said. This is why I'm kind of considering giving up YouTube. It's too much. TikTok alone is taking up so much of my time, and I can't even get videos out in a week. I'm doing terrible. I've never done this bad in my entire time doing this. The only issue I have with giving up YouTube, and this is a big one actually, it's that if I give up YouTube, I might miss out on something big because YouTube is known for kind of being one of those channels that if you stay long enough, you'll start to, get views, and get subscribers. And so if I leave now, it's it could all end. But at the same time, it's so bad on YouTube that I'm like, I don't really know if I want to stay here anymore. I just want to go over to TikTok. Anyways, this was going to be a therapy episode, and pretty much the only therapy we've done so far is my own. So I better get into some stuff for you all. And we'll do some therapy regardless of whether people come at all. I know people will probably watch this later, which is why I've got to be very careful what I say. Don't want to do anything that will ruin my reputation or make me lose my job. We were very close last time with that stuff about men's breast milk, which I'm sure I was sure the teacher was going to be like, "You made that up. You get out of here. You're fired." But luckily enough, no one has fired me as of yet. So that's good. Very good. So let's take a look. We'll do the box for right now. We've got a little while before, and again, I had to shoot in a different location because I thought maybe that would help. I'm going to try not to make. That's the only time it will tremble. That was an accident, basically. Oh! Second live performance. I have a good feeling that the processed version of this video won't be as chaotic as the last time. At least I'm hoping. But the first thing I got in this box is a joke book. And this is a good one to do because if it turns out nobody shows up, I can say a few jokes and, we can still have some fun. But these are kind of dark jokes. I like to make dark jokes. And one of them is, I have a beautiful heart. I keep it in a jar on my shelf. That one's actually from Stephen King. I stole that. But I got your back, just waiting for the right time to stab a knife in it. Celebrities are just like normal people. We get up, go to work, eat and sleep. We have our problems and difficulties. George, I was watching that. You spelled difficult wrong. What do you think this is? Okay, go back and rewrite it. Remember, you have to have this done by tonight. Okay. I got a new boyfriend. He's big, muscular, and he's got a tattoo of a teardrop below his eyes, so he's sensitive. Some of these are ones that I've actually used on the show. You know what's love spelled backwards is? It's evil. Evol. I want you to think about that. You know, seeing these orphans needing a home has given me a special feeling inside. Oh, wait, it was gas, never mind. That one I also stole from some show. I've always hated Santa Claus. While the other children would set out cookies and milk, I was setting out bear traps and carpet bombs. Being a celebrity isn't easy. Every time I go out of the house, a mob of fans follow me wherever I go. Usually with not pitchforks and torches, but at least I'm getting chased. You know who I think gets a bad rap? Miss Dalloway from Annie. Here the poor old woman is just wanting to relax, and all these children are running around screaming and putting shoes in her bed. A happier ending would have been if Miss Dalloway got to go on vacation. Every time a bell rings, 10 to 15 puppies die. And I think we can end there. So we haven't got a lot of views. I'm not going to waste the box. I'm just going to start reading from Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone until somebody shows up. So I will wait patiently. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Lived. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Private Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Mr. Dursley was the director of a firm called Grunnings, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck, although he did have a very large mustache. Miss Dursley was thin and blonde and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful as she spent so much of her time craning over garden fences, spying on the neighbors. The Dursleys had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion, there was no finer boy anywhere in the world. The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they also had a secret, and their greatest fear was that somebody would discover it. They didn't think they could bear it if anyone found out about the Potters. Miss Potter was Miss Dursley's sister, but they hadn't met for several years. In fact, Miss Dursley pretended she didn't have a sister, because her sister and her good-for-nothing husband were as un-Dursleyish as it was possible to be. The Dursleys shuddered to think what the neighbors would say if the Potters arrived in the streets. The Dursleys knew that the Potters had a small son, too, but they had never seen him. This boy was another good reason for keeping the Potters away. They didn't want Dudley mixing with a child like that. When Mr. Durs and Mrs. Dursley woke up on the dull gray Tuesday, our story starts. There was nothing about the cloudy sky outside to suggest that strange and mysterious things would soon be happening all over the country. Mr. Dursley hummed as he picked out his most boring tie for work, and Miss Dudley gossiped away happily as she wrestled a screaming Dudley into his high chair. None of them noticed a large tawny owl flutter past the window. At 8:30, Miss Dursley picked up his briefcase, pecked Miss Dursley on the cheek, and tried to kiss Dudley goodbye, but missed because Dudley was now having a tantrum and throwing his cereal at the wall. "Little tyke," chortled Mr. Dursley as he left the house. He got into his car and backed out of number 4 Drive. It was on the corner of the street that he noticed the first sign of something peculiar. A cat reading a map. For a second, Mr. Dursley didn't realize what he had seen. Then he jerked his head around to look again. There was a tabby cat standing on the corner of Private Drive, but there wasn't a map in sight. What could he have been thinking of? It must have been a trick of the light. Mr. Dursley blinked and stared at the car. At the cat. It stared back. As Mr. Dursley drove around the corner and up the road, he watched the cat in his mirror. It was now reading the sign that said Private Drive. No, looking at the sign. Cats couldn't read maps or signs. Mr. Dursley gave himself a little shake and put the cat out of his mind. As he drove towards town, he thought of nothing except a large order of drills he was hoping to get that day. But on the edge of town, drills were driven out of his mind by something else. As he sat in the usual morning traffic jam, he couldn't help noticing that there seemed to be a lot of strangely dressed people about. People in cloaks. Mr. Dursley couldn't bear people who dressed in funny clothes. The get-ups you saw on young people. He supposed this was some stupid new fashion. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, and his eyes fell on a huddle of these weirdos standing quite close by. They were whispering excitedly together. Mr. Dursley was enraged to see that a couple of them weren't young at all. Why, that man had to be older than he was, and wearing an emerald green cloak. The nerve of him. But then it struck Mr. Dursley that this was probably some silly stunt. These people were obviously collecting for something. Yes, that would be it. The traffic moved on, and a few minutes later, Mr. Dursley arrived in the Grunnings parking lot, his mind back on drills. Mr. Dursley always sat with his back to the window in his office on the 9th floor. If he hadn't, he might have found it harder to concentrate on drills that morning. He didn't see the owl swooping past in broad daylight, though people down in the street did. They pointed and gazed open-mouthed as owl after owl sped overhead. Most of them had never seen an owl, even at night time. Mr. Dursley, however, had a perfectly normal, owl-free morning. He yelled at 5 different people. He made several important telephone calls and shouted a bit more. He was in a very good mood until lunchtime, when he thought he'd stretch his leg and walk around the road to buy himself a bun from the bakery. He'd forgotten all about the people in cloaks until he passed a group of them next to the baker's. He eyed them angrily as he passed. He didn't know why, but they made him uneasy. This bunch were whispering excitedly too, and he couldn't see a single collecting tin. It was on his way back, clutching a large donut in a bag, that he caught a few words of what they were saying. The Potters, that's right, that's what I heard. Yes, the son, Harry. Mr. Dursley stopped dead. Fear flooded him. He looked back at the whisperers as if he wanted to say something to them, but thought better of it. He dashed back across the road, hurried up to his office, snapped at his secretary not to disturb him, seized his telephone, and had almost finished dialing his home phone number when he changed his mind. He put the receiver back down and stroked his mustache, thinking, no, he was being stupid. Potter wasn't such an unusual name. He was sure there were a lot of people called Potter who had a son called Harry. Come to think of it, he wasn't even sure his nephew was called Harry. He'd never even seen the boy. It might have been Harvey or Harold. There was no point in worrying Miss Dursley. She always got so upset at any mention of her sister. Well, he didn't blame her if he'd had a sister like that. But all the same, those people in cloaks. He found it a lot harder to concentrate on drills that afternoon, and when he left the building at 5 o'clock, he was still so worried that he walked straight into someone just outside the door. Sorry, he grunted, as the tiny old man stumbled and almost fell. It was a few seconds before Mr. Dursley realized that the man was wearing a violet cloak. He didn't seem at all upset at being almost knocked on the ground. On the contrary, his face split into a wide smile, and he said in a squeaky voice that made passersby stare, Don't be sorry, my dear sir, for nothing could upset me today. Rejoice, for you know who has gone at last. Even muggles like yourself should be celebrating this happy, happy day. And the old man hugged Mr. Dursley around the middle and walked off. Mr. Dursley stood rooted to the spot. He'd been hugged by a complete stranger. He also thought he had been called a muggle, whatever that was. He was rattled. He hurried to his car and set off for home, hoping he was imagining things which he had never hoped before because he didn't approve of imagination. As he pulled into the driveway of number 4, the first thing he saw, and it didn't improve his mood, was the tabby cat he'd spotted that morning. It was now sitting on his garden wall. He was sure it was the same one. It had the same markings around its eyes. "Shoo!" said Mr. Dursley loudly. The cat didn't move. It just gave him a stern look. Was this normal cat behavior? Mr. Dursley wondered. Trying to pull himself together, he let himself into the house. He was still determined not to mention anything to his wife. Miss Dursley had a nice normal day. She told him over dinner all about Miss Next Door's problems with her daughter and how Dudley had learned a new word, won't. Mr. Dursley tried to act normally. When Dudley had been put to bed, he went into the living room in time to catch the last report on the evening news. And finally, bird watchers everywhere have reported that the nation's owls have been behaving very unusual today. Although owls normally hunt at night and are hardly ever seen in daylight, there have been hundreds of sightings of these birds flying in every direction since sunrise. Experts are unable to explain why the owls have suddenly changed their sleeping patterns. The newscaster allowed himself a grin. Most mysterious. And now over to Jim McGuffin with the weather. Going to be any more showers of owls tonight, Jim? Well, Ted, said the weatherman, I don't know about that, but it's not only the owls that have been acting oddly today. Viewers as far apart as Kent, Yorkshire, and Dundee have been phoning in to tell me that instead of the rain I promised yesterday, they've had a downpour of shooting stars. Perhaps people have been celebrating bonfire night early. It's not until next week's, folks, but I can promise a wet night tonight. Mr. Dursley sat frozen in his armchair. Shooting stars all over Britain? Owls flying by daylight? Mysterious people in cloaks all over the place? And a whisper about the Potters. Miss Dursley came into the living room, carrying 2 cups of tea. It was no good. He'd have had to say something to her. He cleared his throat nervously. Petunia, dear, you haven't heard from your sister lately, have you? As he had expected, Miss Dursley looked shocked and angry. After all, they normally pretended she didn't have a sister. No, she said sharply. Why? Funny stuff on the news, Mr. Dursley mumbled. Owls, shooting stars, and there are a lot of funny-looking people in town today. So? Snapped Miss Dursley. Well, I just thought maybe it was something to do with, her crowd. Miss Dursley sipped her tea through pursed lips. Mr. Dursley wondered whether he dared tell her he'd heard the name Potter. He decided he didn't dare. Instead, he said, as casually as he could, their son. He'd be about Dudley's age now, wouldn't he? I suppose so, said Miss Dursley stiffly. What's his name again? Howard, isn't it? Harry. Nasty common name, if you ask me. Oh, yes, said Mr. Dursley, his heart sinking horribly. Yes, I quite agree. He didn't say another word on the subject as they went upstairs to bed. While Miss Dursley was in the bathroom, Mr. Dursley crept to the bedroom window and peered down into the front garden. The cat was still there. It was staring down Privet Drive as though it were waiting for something. Was he imagining things? Could all this have anything to do with the Potters? If it did, if it got out that they were related to a pair of, well, he didn't think he could bear it. The Dursleys got into bed. Miss Dursley fell asleep quickly, but Mr. Dursley lay awake, turning it all over in his mind. His last comforting thought before he fell asleep was that even if the Potters were involved, there was no reason for them to come near him and Miss Dursley. The Potters knew very well what he and Petunia thought about them and their kind. He couldn't see how he and Petunia could get mixed up in anything that might be going on. He yawned and turned over. It couldn't affect them. How very wrong he was. Miss Dursley might have been drifting into an uneasy sleep, but the cat on the wall outside was showing no signs of sleepiness. It was sitting as still as a statue, its eyes fixed unblinkingly on the far corner of Privet Drive. It didn't so much as quiver when a car door slammed on the next street, nor when two owls swooped overhead. In fact, it was nearly midnight before the cat moved at all. A man appeared on the corner the cat had been watching. Appeared so suddenly and silently you would have thought he just popped out of the ground. The cat's tail twitched and its eyes narrowed. Nothing like this man had ever been seen on Privet Drive. He was tall, thin, and very old, judging by the sliver of his hair and beard, which were long enough to tuck into his belt. He was wearing long robes, a purple cloak that swept the ground, and high-heeled buckled boots. His blue eyes were light blue, bright and sparkling behind half-moon spectacles, and his nose was very long and crooked, as though it had been broken at least twice. This man's name was Albus Dumbledore. Albus Dumbledore didn't seem to realize that he had just arrived in a street where everything from his name to his boots was unwelcome. He was busy rummaging in his cloak looking for something, but he did seem to realize he was being watched, because he looked up suddenly at the cat, which was still staring at him from the other end of the street. For some reason, the sight of the cat seemed to amuse him. He chuckled and muttered, "I should have known." He found what he was looking for in his inside pocket. It seemed to be a silver cigarette lighter. He flicked it open, held it up in the air, and clicked it. The nearest street lamp went out with a little pop. He clicked it again. The next lamp flickered into darkness. 12 times he clicked the put-outer until the only light left on the whole street were two tiny pinpricks in the distance, which were eyes of the cat watching him. If anyone looked out of their windows now, even beady-eyed Miss Dursley, they wouldn't be able to see anything that was happening down on the pavement. Dumbledore slipped the put-outer back inside his cloak and set off down the street towards number 4, where he sat down on the wall next to the cat. He didn't look at it, but after a moment he spoke to it. "Fancy seeing you here, Professor McGonagall." He turned to smile at the tabby, but it had gone. Instead, he was smiling at a rather severe-looking woman who was wearing square glasses exactly the shape of the markings the cat had had around its eyes. She, too, was wearing a cloak, an emerald one. Her black hair was drawn into a tight bun. She looked distinctly ruffled. "How did you know it was me?" "My dear Professor, I've never seen a cat sit so stiffly." "You'd be stiff if you'd been sitting on a brick wall all day," said Professor McGonagall. "All day? When you could have been celebrating? I must have passed a dozen feasts and parties on my way here." Professor McGonagall sniffed angrily. "Oh, yes, everyone's celebrating all right," she said impatiently. "You'd think they'd be a bit more careful, but no, even the Muggles have noticed something's going on. It was on their news." She jerked her head back at the Dursleys' dark living room window. "I heard it. Flocks of owls, shooting stars? Well, they're not completely stupid. They were bound to notice something. Shooting stars down in Kent. I'll bet that was Diddless Diggle. He never had much sense." "You can't blame them," said Dumbledore gently. "We've had precious little to celebrate for 11 years. "I know that," said Professor McGonagall irritably. "But that's not reason to lose our head. People are being downright careless, out on the street in broad daylight, not even dressed in Muggle clothes, swapping rumors." She threw a sharp sideways glance at Dumbledore here, as though hoping he was going to tell her something, but he didn't, so she went on. "A fine thing it would be if on the very day you-know-whom seems to have disappeared at last, the Muggles found out about us all." "I suppose he really has gone, Dumbledore?" "Well, certainly seems so," said Dumbledore. "We have much to be thankful for. Would you care for a lemon drop?" "A what?" "A lemon drop. They're a kind of Muggle sweet I'm rather fond of." No, thank you, said Professor McGonagall coldly, as though she didn't think this was the moment for lemon drops. As I say, even if you know who has gone, my dear Professor, surely a sensible person like yourself can call him by his name. All this you-know-who nonsense. For 11 years I have been trying to persuade people to call him by his proper name, Voldemort. Professor McGonagall flinched, but Dumbledore, who was unsticking 2 lemon drops, seemed not to notice. It all gets so confusing if we keep saying, you-know-who. I've never seen any reason to be frightened of saying Voldemort's name. I know you haven't, said Professor McGonagall, sounding half exasperated, half admiring. But you're different. Everyone knows you're the only one you-know-who. Oh, all right, Voldemort was frightened of. You flatter me, said Dumbledore calmly. Voldemort had powers I will never have. Only because you're too, well, noble to use them. It's lucky it's dark. I haven't blushed so much since Madame Pomfrey told me she liked my new earmuffs. Professor McGonagall shot a sharp look at Dumbledore and said, The owls are nothing next to the rumors that are flying around. You know what everyone's saying? About why he disappeared? About what finally stopped him? It seemed that Professor McGonagall had reached the point she was most anxious to discuss. The real reason she had been waiting on a cold, hard wall all day. For neither as a cat nor as a woman had she fixed Dumbledore with such a piercing stare as she did now. It was plain that whatever everyone was saying, she was not going to believe it until Dumbledore told her it was true. Dumbledore, however, was choosing another lemon drop and did not answer. What they're saying, she pressed on, is that last night Voldemort turned up in Godric's Hollow. He went to find the Potters. The rumor is that Lily and James Potter are that they're dead. Dumbledore bowed his head. Professor McGonagall gasped. Lily and James, I can't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. Oh, Albus. Dumbledore reached out and patted her on the shoulder. I know, he said heavily. Professor McGonagall's voice trembled as she went on. That's not all. They're saying he tried to kill the Potter's son, Harry. But he couldn't. He couldn't kill that little boy. No one knows why or how, but they're saying that when he couldn't kill Harry Potter, Voldemort's powers somehow broke, and that's why he's gone. Dumbledore nodded glumly. It's true, faltered Professor McGonagall. After all he's done, all the people he's killed, he couldn't kill a little boy. It's just astounding. Of all the things to stop him, but how in the name of heaven did Harry survive? We can only guess, said Dumbledore. We may never know. Professor McGonagall pulled out a lace handkerchief and dabbled at her eyes beneath her spectacles. Dumbledore gave a great sniff as he took a golden watch from his pocket and examined it. It was a very odd watch. Its 12 hands, but no numbers on it. Instead, little planets were moving around the edges. It must have made sense to Dumbledore, though, because he put it back in his pocket and said, Hagrid's late. I suppose it was he who told you I'd be here, by the way. Yes, said Professor McGonagall. And I don't suppose you're going to tell me why you're here, of all places. I've come to bring Harry to his aunt and uncle. They're the only family he has left now. You don't mean. You can't mean the people who live here, cried Professor McGonagall, jumping to her feet and pointing at number 4. Dumbledore, you can't. I've been watching them all day. You couldn't find 2 people who are less like us. And they've got his son. I saw him kicking his mother all the way up the street, screaming for sweets. Harry Potter come and live here? It's the best place for him, said Dumbledore firmly. His aunt and uncle will be able to explain everything to him when he's older. I've written them a letter. A letter? Repeated Professor McGonagall faintly, sitting back down on the wall. Really, Dumbledore, you think you can explain all this in a letter? These people will never understand him. He'll be famous, a legend. I wouldn't be surprised if today was known as Harry Potter Day in the future. There'll be books written about Harry. Every child in our world will know his name. Exactly, said Dumbledore, looking very seriously over the top of his half-moon glasses. It would be enough to turn any boy's head. Famous before he can walk and talk. Famous for something he won't even remember. Can't you see how much better off he'll be growing up away from all that until he's ready to take it? Professor McGonagall opened her mouth, changed her mind, swallowed, and then said, Yes, you're right, of course. But how is the boy getting here, Dumbledore? She eyed his cloak suddenly, as though she thought he might be hiding Harry underneath it. Hagrid's bringing him. You think it wise to trust Hagrid with something as important as this? I would trust Hagrid with my life, said Dumbledore. I'm not saying his heart is in the right place, said Professor McGonagall grudgingly, but you can't pretend he's not careless. He does tend to... What was that? A low rumbling sound had broken the silence around them. It grew steadily louder as they looked up and down the street for some signs of a headlight. It swelled to a roar as they both looked up at the sky, and a huge motorcycle fell out of the air and landed on the road in front of them. If the motorcycle was huge, it was nothing to the man sitting astride it. He was almost twice as tall as a normal man, and at least 5 times as wide. He looked simply too big to be allowed, and so wild, long tangles of brushy black hair and beard hid most of his face. He had hands the size of trash can lids, and his feet in their leather boots were like baby dolphins. In his vast, muscular arms, he was holding a bundle of blankets. Hagrid, said Dumbledore, sounding relieved. At last. And where did you get that motorcycle? Borrowed it, Professor Dumbledore, sir, said the giant, climbing carefully off the motorcycle as he spoke. Young Sirius Black lent it to me. I got him, sir. No problem, was there? No, sir, the house was almost destroyed, but I got him out all right before the muggles started swarming around. Fell asleep as he was flying over Bristle. Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall bent forward over the bundle of blankets. Inside, just visible, was a baby boy, fast asleep, under a tuft of jet black hair over his forehead. They could see a curiously shaped cut, like a bolt of lightning. Is that where? Whispered Professor McGonagall. Yes, said Dumbledore. He'll have that scar forever. Well, couldn't you do something about it, Dumbledore? Even if I could, I wouldn't. Scars can come in handy. I have one myself, above my left knee, that is a perfect map of the London Underground. Well, give him here, Hagrid. We'd better get this over with. Dumbledore took Harry in his arm and turned towards the Dursleys' house. Could I say goodbye to him, sir? Asked Hagrid. He bent his great shaggy head over Harry and gave him what must have been a very scratchy, whiskery kiss. Then suddenly Hagrid let out a howl like a wounded dog. Shh! Hissed Professor McGonagall. You'll wake the muggles. Sorry, sobbed Hagrid, taking out a large spotted handkerchief and burying his face in it. But I can't stand it. Lily and James dead and poor little Harry off to live with muggles. Yes, it's all very sad. But get a grip on yourself, Hagrid, or we'll be found, Professor McGonagall whispered, patting Hagrid gingerly on the arm as Dumbledore stepped over the low garden wall and walked to the front door. He laid Harry gently on the doorstep, took a letter out of his cloak, tucked it inside Harry's blanket, and then came back to the other two. For a full minute, the 3 of them stood and looked at the little bundle. Hagrid's shoulders shook. Professor McGonagall blinked furiously, and the twinkling light that usually shone from Dumbledore's eyes seemed to have gone out. Well, said Dumbledore finally, that's that. We've no business staying here. We may as well go and join the celebrations. Yeah, said Hagrid in a very muffled voice. I'll be taking Sirius's bike back. Good night, Professor McGonagall. Professor Dumbledore, sir. Wiping his streaming eyes on his jacket sleeve, Hagrid swung himself onto the motorcycle and kicked the engine into life. With a roar, it rose into the air and off into the night. "I shall see you soon, I expect, Professor McGonagall," said Dumbledore, nodding to her. Professor McGonagall blew her nose in reply. Dumbledore turned and walked back down the street. On the corner he stopped and took out the silver put-outer. He clicked it once, and 12 balls of light sped back to their street lamps, so that Privet Drive glowed suddenly orange, and he could make out a tabby cat, slinking around the corner at the other end of the street. He could just see the bundle of blankets on the steps of number 4. "Good luck, Harry," he murmured. He turned on his heels, and with a swish of his cloak, he was gone. A breeze ruffled the neat hedges of Privet Drive, which lay silently and tidy under the inky sky, the very last place you would expect astonishing things to happen. Harry Potter rolled over inside his blanket without waking up. One small hand closed on the letter beside him, and he slept on, not knowing he was special, not knowing he was famous, not knowing he would be woken in a few hours' time by Miss Dursley's scream as she opened the front door to put out the milk bottles, nor that he would spend the next few weeks being prodded and pinched by his cousin Dudley. He couldn't know that at this very moment, people meeting in secret all over the country were holding up their glasses and saying in hushed voices, "To Harry Potter, the boy who lived." So, within that time, nobody has come yet, so I'm trying to decide whether or not I should even keep going with this. I was expecting, like, a person to pop up while I was reading that, and nope. I'm not surprised, though. I'm not mad or anything like that. I get it. I was very bad about planning this out and telling people that it was going to happen. It was bound to happen. I'm not upset. This is one of the reasons I'm just, thinking of ending YouTube. It's because, like, you don't know what your audience is going to like. But no, it's not you guys' fault at all. The only thing I did was post on Facebook. That is not enough. I'm not going to get people that way. As far as the time, I guess 4 to 5 is okay. It's kind of hard for me to do any other time. Maybe at night I could shoot, but it'd be very difficult. So I don't know. I mean, if you guys want a different time, please leave in the comments below. But I'm struggling right now because I can't decide whether I should just quit the stream right now or if I should just because I want to save this stuff. I was thinking, what I'm thinking of doing is just doing another live stream Thursday and maybe planning it out better, getting people to watch, because this is my fault, really. I feel bad, actually. I did not tell you all that this was happening, and not a single person's shown up yet, as far as I can tell. I mean, no one's commented or anything, and it says 0 on the viewfinder. Unless, for some reason, people have been watching and this computer is just bad at its job. So, yeah, I'm trying to decide here. What should I do? I don't want to go through this stuff because I could save it for another time when there actually is people watching live. I just don't know what to do here. I don't know. I'm going to take my doll out and pet it. What should we do, baby doll? I don't know. I don't know what to do. Yes, this is not good. Because I don't want this to be my second live extravaganza where I was just reading Harry Potter. Maybe this one can just not count. Maybe this can be like a 0.5, getting you ready for the next one. Yeah. I feel bad, doll. We did not do a good job planning this out. We didn't. I gotta tell these people that I'm coming, Otherwise, they're not going to know. Because right now, there's literally nobody here. And we're running out of time. We have 15 minutes. 15 minutes, Dolly. 15 minutes. What should I do here? I don't know. Yeah, it's hard for me to be an entertainer when there's no one here. Maybe this could just be a little extra thing. I'll tell you all some of the stuff I'm planning. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that on a zero point 0.5 episode. What should I do? Should I just read Harry Potter some more? I feel like ending on chapter one, though, is a good place. My throat's surprisingly sore. I'm pretty good with voices and stuff. I'm surprised it got sore that quick. Usually I can read a chapter of a book without my voice dying on me. I don't know. This is really weird. Maybe I should just do the dance party. Yeah. Why not? I mean, if nobody's here, I can finally show you all, like, my moves. Yeah, I'm sorry if you watch this in the future, and honestly, you probably won't have made it through the Harry Potter part, but, like, that was your punishment for not tuning in, but it is me. Don't worry. I know this hair makes it very confusing. It's a very convincing disguise, but I'm not dancing to any music. That makes it creepy, right? I've heard that. If you dance without music, it's actually really creepy. We are going to do another live extravaganza. This one doesn't count. I'm renaming this. I'm going to give it a new title. It's going to be Seth 0.5, just extra stuff. Extra, like an extra video, Because I don't want this to count. This doesn't count. Man. I'm surprised not a single person has shown up to this. That is disappointing. I wonder if 4 to 5 is a good time. Maybe I should do like 9 to 10 or something. I mean, I've had fun. Reading Harry Potter's fun. I mean, I like doing that. I like reading stories aloud. It's kind of my weakness. But I gotta get the music. I cannot find the music. Can I? Oh, you know what that sound is? I don't know if you guys can hear that. Woodpeckers come and they like hit their beak against our house, and sometimes they'll make that sound. It's like this, or well, maybe it's like this kind of like that, kind of like that. Not really. It's not like it's like more like a peck. But it's weird because I always feel like somebody's like trying to contact me or something, or like there's somebody out there like knocking at my window, and it's just a woodpecker hitting the wood on our house. I don't have a problem with woodpeckers, actually. I'm okay with them. Hey, I'm not mad though, really. Like I'm just I feel guilty, honestly. Okay, I can't find the music. All right, so I guess you all can just imagine the music or something. But I can't dance to no music. That's not gonna work. Oh, here it is. I found it. It's time for this video to be blocked by YouTube in 3, 2, 1. The only reason I went through with this, let's turn off. The only reason I went through with this video at all, even though it wasn't like properly planned and scheduled, was because I just was like, I might as well try it. Like I did promise you all that it was coming, but I didn't like do a very good job like scheduling it and stuff. I was like kind of just threw it together. This is a new computer too, so I thought it would be a lot easier to put together. I just don't know. I'm surprised no one came, but at the same time, I'm not that surprised. Last one, it was very, very commercialized. It was very not really that commercialized. I can't afford actual commercials, but I was like, I told people about it. This one has just been kind of a mess, to be honest. But Okay, I'm bored of this. I don't know what it means to be like a professional dancer. It's like I'll just shake myself around and be like, ah, it looks pretty good when I'm on camera. I don't really see what it takes. Oh, my hair's sticking up. I don't see what it really takes to be a professional dancer. I've never really got that. Like, I guess when they're like moving around like all crazy and jumping off things, I kind of get it. But it's like at the same time, what is it about dancing that makes it work? Like, and why does it take so many years to like train to know how to do things? Like, it's just moving your body. I mean, anyone should be able to do that, right? Like, I mean, I exercise. I'm good on that. I don't know what to do. I'll say a relaxing word. How about that? It's moggle wobble wobbler. Find that to be a relaxing word. I'll say that in the next video too. I know people will probably watch this later, but it's not the same. I just need to do another one. I think that is what is destined. I might just quit it now because there's just for the last hour no one's came, and continue the punishment of reading Harry Potter when you guys do not show up, because that was kind of fun. I don't know if that's going to make people turn this video off before they even get to this point. Honestly, this point probably made people turn it off. Hopefully some of you stayed. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, no, it was not your guys' fault at all. And yeah. I'm basically just wasting time to see if anyone comes, but we have like 8 minutes, so not a single person showed up. I think it's just best to quit. I'm not even going to say anything like really special. I had some special things planned out to say here at the end, and I'm just like, nope, nobody's here, so I guess we'll just shut her off. I think by now, at this point, it's almost 5 o'clock. Why don't we just go to 5 o'clock? There's only 2 minutes left, and then we'll just quit. So, Harry Potter has never played a sport. I don't feel like doing it. We only have 1 minute left. Can anyone show up? Somebody? Is anyone even watching? I don't know. Maybe I did it wrong. I shouldn't do a fancy ending. Man, this stinks. It stinks, doesn't it? I'll do another live event soon. I'll do another live event Thursday, 4 o'clock. Set your date. I'm going to really announce this. And it's going to be like, I probably won't do another one until like 800. So it'll be a long time before you see another live event. This one doesn't count. This one is just like a behind the scenes sort of weird one that doesn't even really exist. It's like the 0.5. Because I had a whole bunch of stuff here planned, but I'm not going to show that if no one's participating. So, it's 5 o'clock. So long! And sorry for everything. Just everything. I'm an apologizer, and I want to say sorry. So, should I end it? Is anyone going to come? Bye.